Magandang umaga, Filipinos. Good morning. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city is Edmonton, and we're here this morning to bring you news and commentary from across the country. Well, it's Thursday morning. Almost made it to the end of the work week. You know, if you look out there on the horizon, I think you can see the weekend. Yeah, can't wait. Let's take a look at the weather in Metro this morning. AccuWeather forecasting a bit of sun today. There'll be thunder showers throughout the day and evening. High today of 34 with a real feel of 41. Currently 28 degrees in Metro Manila. Feels like 33 and the air quality is fair. Well, I just put the fresh coffee on. That's right, just over there. Yeah, grab a second cup, sit back, relax, and let me tell you what's happening in Canada. First, we'll take a look at the weather across the country. Our street scene today comes from Stawamus. I think I pronounced that right. It's an indigenous name, Stawamus Chief Mountain. It's in the Vancouver area. And a big thank you to Jen De Leon for that shot. And say hi to your husband, Jeffrey. We miss him here in Edmonton. Jeffrey went away to Vancouver to marry Jen, and she kept him there. Anyway, this area that you're looking at there has some challenging hiking trails, but if you successfully navigate them, man, what a view. Looking at the weather map, Victoria, partly sunny in 18. The same in Vancouver, partly sunny in 18. We move across to Alberta. It's been another day of clouds and rain, and Edmonton is just kind of gloomy here. 15 degrees right now. Calgary, mostly cloudy and 14. In Saskatchewan, Regina, partly cloudy and 21. Saskatoon, mostly cloudy, got up to 19 degrees there. We move east to Winnipeg, where it's mainly sunny and 26. And in Toronto, that heat wave just continuing there, mostly cloudy, but 32 degrees. Also a scorcher up in Ottawa, the nation's capital, clouds and 32 there. Montreal is reporting thunderstorms and 24, and we move east, further east into the Atlantic provinces. Fredericton reporting light rain and 14 degrees. Halifax, 16 and cloudy. Warmed up a little bit in St. John's, Newfoundland, where it's partly cloudy and 16 degrees. And that's a look at our weather. Here are some of the stories we're following today. The federal government has released the country's credit card statement. A majority of Canadians say the border to the U.S. should stay closed indefinitely. The Prime Minister is making fighting racism a summer project for his government. Well, you know, the numbers are really no surprise to anyone. We knew they were going to be big. The Canadian government today let us know how much money is borrowed to help the country weather the pandemic. The balance on the credit card statement? You sitting down? Just over $343 billion. That's about 1,000% more than what it was last year. Now, most of that is due to the massive spending as a result of the pandemic, and spending like that, according to a government release, rivals the debt levels that the government saw in World War II. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making no apologies. He says the cost of doing nothing, if they did nothing, it would have been higher and more people would have been hurt.
Measure the cost of helping Canadians. We shouldn't forget that the cost of doing nothing would have been far more to both our health care and our economy. This is not and has not been a time for tightening of belts or for austerity. By building a bridge for Canadians through this crisis, we can and will build a stronger, more resilient Canada.
What it had to do, it stepped in so that people would not be pushed to the economic brink.
If the federal government hadn't taken on significant debt in order to send money to Canadians to support businesses and households, what would Canadians have done? They would have loaded up their credit cards. They would have scrambled to try and find ways to pay their bills and pay their groceries and figure out how to care for their loved ones. We took on debt so Canadians wouldn't have to.
You know, maybe that's not such a bad thing. However, the challenge now is what to do with it. How do we handle that debt? Could result in higher taxes, I guess. Or the government could choose to just live with it leave it for future generations to pay down, and that's something that's been done before. Well, what's on the mind of Canadians? One thing, the Canada-U.S. border, and what should be done about it. You know, it's been closed to non-essential traffic since March 21st, and every month the government has extended that closure. Now it's coming up to July 21st in, a week and a half. That's the date set for it to reopen, but an overwhelming number of people are saying, hey, wait a minute, no, leave it closed. Seems they fear Americans more than the virus. A Nanos research poll says 81% of those asked say the border should remain closed for the foreseeable future. Only 3% saying it should be reopened immediately. And what is it that's troubling people? Well, we look at the growing infection rates in the U.S., and the question is, do we want visitors coming in who may be carriers of COVID-19? Our numbers in this country have gone down and continue to go down, but in the U.S. they're rising. More than 23,000 yesterday. 337 people died just yesterday of COVID in the U.S. The infection rate in the U.S. is 3 times that of Canada. And, philosophically, the two governments couldn't be more different in the way they're approaching the pandemic. Canadian Prime Minister, you'll hear him here, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau takes a cautious approach.
Said that nationally, the number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths is declining over time. That is still the case today. The situation is stabilizing in Canada because Canadians did their part and followed public health instructions. But we still have to be very careful. Things can change quickly.
Oh my, they can, as they found out in a number of states when they started to reopen. Conversely, the United States seems to be intent on getting the economy going again, even if there is collateral damage. On the public health side, though, experts urging leaders to exercise caution, but many politicians seem to be throwing that caution to the wind. This is U.S. President Donald Trump saying he'll pressure governors to reopen schools. Well, we'll have a soundbite of him in a minute. This is how he views the pandemic. Yesterday, Trump again saying the problem is the numbers are high because there's too much testing.
Because we're doing more testing, we have more cases. If we did half the testing, we'd have far fewer cases. But people don't view it that way. What they have to view, though, is if you look at the chart, and maybe Mike has it, but we looked at it before. If you look at the chart of deaths, deaths are way down. So what we want to do is we want to get our schools open. We want to get them open quickly, beautifully in the fall.
So you can see the difference in how the two countries view the pandemic. And again, for the record, in the last 24 hours, 337 people in the U.S. died of COVID, only 22 in Canada in that same time period. And that's why Canadians have no appetite to see the border reopen soon. How do Americans feel about the issue? According to a Leger poll, only 36% say the border should remain closed. Majority think it should reopen. There seems to be some denial going on there. Well, the closure has had little effect on business in Canada. Essential goods are moving back and forth between the two countries. Only the tourism sector is really hurt by this. But, given the state of personal finances, the fear of getting infected, I think it's going to be a long time before that business recovers. Well, typically, this is the time of year when people buy houses. The idea is, school is out. So if you're going to move, you want a bigger house, different neighborhood, that sort of thing, now is the time to do it. It's less disruptive to children than in the middle of the school year. Well, in many parts of the country, home buying is the last thing on people's mind. I mean, they're not even sure if they'll have a job next month. The real estate market is booming in Canada's 2 most expensive cities, Toronto and Vancouver. But, in places like Calgary, my city in Edmonton, house prices are declining. Sales have picked up. Yes, they've picked up from the previous months. But when we compare activity to activity at the same time a year ago, we're still about 40% off the market. Oh, and if you're wondering what the average price of a house is in Canada, I'm going to leave out the 2 most expensive markets in this averaging. The average house in Canada goes for $401,000. $401,000, that's well over 14 million pesos. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has given his cabinet ministers a summertime assignment Trudeau says he wants ministers to come up with a work plan to fight systemic racism in Canada.
Fighting systemic racism, unconscious bias, and discrimination is a top priority for our government, and we will continue to listen and work with communities and allies to build a better Canada.
But, you know, like many other announcements he's made, it's long on rhetoric, short on details.
As I said, we need to end systemic racism in this country, and that includes looking carefully at what happens in our police forces and changing the protocols and ways that our police forces operate. The Minister Blair is engaged in looking specifically at that, on working with partners, and ensuring that we do make substantive changes to how policing is delivered across this country, alongside many other things that need to be addressed to go at the systemic racism that exists throughout Canada, whether it's justice reform, whether it's access to capital for black entrepreneurs, whether it's support for Indigenous businesses, whether it's ensuring that we're allowing access to childcare and support services right across the country for vulnerable communities. These are things that we as an entire government are going to be working on, because we need to take the right action in concert with vulnerable communities, working with them, listening to them, but we need to do it quickly as well, and that's what we're focused on.
Hopefully we get some specifics over the next few months. If you're just joining us, it's 14 minutes past 7 o'clock. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada.
Patindi ng patindi at tuloy-tuloy ang pagpapakita ng galing ng ating mga TNG aspirants.
You're just too good to be true.
It up, you came to get it broke with a dame, but you didn't broke, you got it.
When I was a child.
Abangan ng kanilang performances sa pinakamalaking talent competition sa buong bansa, Tagisan ng Galing.
Tagisan ng Galing is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sanmig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sanmig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutrichunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo, ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa Nutrichunks. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Luncheon Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate NEPs and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matimco, Our Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, IMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The Bulacan Bulk Water Project is a treatment facility that will provide bulk water to the 24 municipalities of Bulacan to meet the increasing water demand of its residents. Through concessionaire, SMC Infrastructure also initiated the significant improvements of the Manila North Harbor Port, the country's busiest port.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ibang klase ang sarap ng corned beef mo. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Kaya perfect ang sarap. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
Hello, my name is Robin, and I'm 5 years old. My mom and dad said many people are getting sick. That is why we have to stay at home. That is why I cannot go to school. I cannot play outside, and I cannot even visit my friends. We can only go outside if we visit the doctor, or if we need to buy some food. And when we get home, we have to wash our hands. While I'm at home, I do my homework, clean up my toys, help cooking our food, and help my parents with their work. Please stay home so we can all play together again. Bye!
This is Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness, 718, 28 degrees in Metro Manila. In Ontario, the province is proceeding with a number of transportation projects. That story from Eagle News correspondent Raisa Mangilit.
As a result of lockdown restrictions necessary to stop the spread of COVID-19, many individuals, families, and businesses were economically affected. To help with the economic challenges, the provincial government recently announced their Made in Ontario plan for growth, renewal, and economic recovery. Here is Premier Ford with the announcement.
And getting things built, getting infrastructure built, it means roads, bridges, highways, transit, and subways. These infrastructure projects serve our communities, and building them will put tens of thousands of people back to work. This is how we're going to restart jobs and development. It's how we're going to strengthen our communities, and it's how we're going to create opportunities for people. And it starts with getting shovels in the ground on major infrastructure projects. That's why our government is investing over $2.6 billion in highway construction projects this year alone.
This plan aims to rebuild Ontario through critical infrastructure projects, which will then provide jobs for communities across the province. Part of the plan is to propose an acceleration of key provincial highway construction, as well as other priority transit projects. Minister of Transportation Caroline Mulrooney provides more details.
Our plan for developing transit-oriented communities will allow us to develop complete communities, focused on connecting people to public transit and housing that is safe and affordable. And much like our plans to deliver priority transit projects faster, we're developing the tools that we need to help us accelerate major highway projects as well.
The proposed transit-oriented communities will place job opportunities for more Ontarians. Associate Minister of Transportation for the Greater Toronto Area, Kinga Sirma, talks more about the benefits of the building of fully integrated communities for the GTA as well as the entire province.
Our government will be introducing legislation that, if passed, will enable complete mixed-use communities. They are integrated into new subway stations and designed in partnership with municipal and local input. Transit-oriented communities will be delivered using the lands already required for transit station construction. Instead of building a station in isolation, they will be integrated into a complete transit-oriented community.
The new measures will also help save taxpayers money through the development industry's direct contribution to the building costs of the transit projects. Premier Ford announces an investment of over $2.6 billion for the expansion and repair of the province's highways and bridges. Take a look.
Our government is investing over $2.6 billion in highway construction projects this year alone. We're widening Highway 3 between Essex and Leamington from 2 to 4 lanes. We're widening the 401 between London and Tilbury from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. And we're twinning the Garden City Skyway on the QEW going into St. Catharines.
The COVID-19 pandemic has created significant economic hardship for many Ontarians. If the proposed plan for growth, renewal, and economic recovery is passed, more jobs will be available for those who need to work and earn their livelihood while also creating more ways to connect communities. In Toronto, Raza Mangilit, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Well, one of the highlights of summer in Western Canada is the Calgary Stampede. And it fell victim to the pandemic this year. But remnants of the annual blowout go on. Joining me live this morning from Calgary, J.C. Umel. J.C., you know, I remember the rituals of the Stampede, the pancake breakfast. Everywhere you turn around, they're serving you pancakes. Everyone's a cowboy. You got to have a cowboy hat or they look at you like you're weird. But what's happening this year with virtually everything on hold?
By the way, Tom, don't forget the bacon.
I love it. You know, bacon, a lot of people don't know this, but bacon is a health food.
It is. But you're correct, Tom. July is a special month for Calgarians and also for Canadians here in the western side because it is the time that they boot up, wear their western clothes, and enjoy the Stampede. But due to this current pandemic, the annual rodeo show was tagged as the greatest show on earth, was put into halt for the first time after 100 years. To fill it up, the void on the hearts of each Calgarians and also avid Stampede fans, the Stampede organizers, together with the local groups, are putting small events across Calgary that people can able to enjoy. It is hard to imagine a July in Calgary without the Stampede pancake breakfast, mini donuts, and other midway treats, says Dana Pierce, the president and chairman of Calgary Stampede Board. He also added, "We hope there's a little taste of Stampede for everyone this year until we can gather again together in 2021. Some of the food events that the Stampede will have will be mini donut drive-thru, BMO Kids pancake drive-thru, Stampede food truck rally, and also to keep the Stampede spirit alive, there will be a free pancake breakfast drive-thru style so that you could able to round out your families and head to this traditional Stampede experience with a drive-thru twist. So we're still practicing social distancing. Also, what is Stampede without the traditional fireworks? The Bell Fireworks Spectacular will light up the night sky over Calgary on July 3rd and on July 12th as our community celebrates Stampede 2020. The Stampede 2020 might be cancelled, but the Stampede spirit to everyone will always be there. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada, this is JC Umel, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. So back to you, Tom.
JC, you know, I love the Stampede. I used to be at QR77 in your city, one of the radio stations there. What are you going to take? Mini donuts. You mentioned mini donuts.
Uh-huh.
I love those things. What are you going to take in of the Stampede events they've got planned?
So I've been to Canada for almost 5 years, and almost every year I am always there. And they would always put a different kind of food, and last year they have some exotic food. But what is the only always thing that I always buy is, you're correct, mini donuts and those big chunk of chicken leg.
What kind of Stampede clothing do you have?
At first, my first one, just to share, I have a cowboy hat, and that's it. When I learned about how they dress up, following year, I already have, except for the boots, I haven't bought a boots yet, but I have from the checkered clothes, the pants and everything. I have it.
You know what you need? I saw an oil company executive once when I was working down there during Stampede. Of course, the whole city shuts down. Nobody goes to work. They just wander around all day eating pancakes and socializing. But this oil company executive, he looks like a cowboy out of the Old West. The toy guns, the sheriff's badge, the cowboy hat. It's really, you got to get yourself a sheriff's badge.
I need to get, my son have one, so I probably borrow his.
Well, you can be your son's deputy. Thanks for joining us this morning, JC, and enjoy the remnants of the Stampede this year. Hopefully that celebration will be back next year. Well, if you're looking for something different to watch, look no further than EBC. Check out Digital Nest Home Edition, a program for the dreamers, the avid learners of today. You know, it's an online community where people share their interests, trends that they're following, and tips and tricks on any hobby. Digital Nest, another program from your network in interesting times, EBC. And that's our program for today. On behalf of the Canadian News team, I wish you all good health. Take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Stay tuned for Anong Sa Inyo.